So welcome back to another edition of the Common Constitutionalist, and I am on location and again in a nearby park. And sometimes it's hard to find a shady spot so you're not in direct sunlight because it really washes up me and the camera, and away from traffic and whatnot. And so I think I found a spot. We'll see if I get interrupted by other people walking around the park. Who knows? But here we go. I got a couple of these things, and they're both from the Blaze, and it's about the DACA program, Donald Trump, the DREAM Act, Governor Rick Scott of Florida. So that's what we're going to be discussing today on the Common Constitutionalist.
Listening to the Common Constitutionalist, broadcasting from an undisclosed location, free from the prying eyes of establishment black helicopters.
Okay, like I said, this is from the Blaze, and I've got a couple of them. So I'll just start, and we'll see where we go. President Trump is expected to end the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program, or the DACA program, this coming Tuesday, day after Labor Day, we hope. Although liberals are up in arms about the impending doom of one of former President Barack Obama's flagship accomplishments, a former Trump immigration advisor has a strong take about why the program should end. Ha, he ain't the only one, brother. One of the key terms a person must meet in order to be DACA eligible is that he or she must not have committed any serious crimes. Just regular old crimes is fine, I guess, like sneaking into the country. That's a crime, last I checked. Thus, the term illegal alien, otherwise they'd call them legal aliens. But anyway, I digress. Chris Kobach, the Kansas Secretary of State, said that there are loopholes and limitations that still allow criminals to receive DACA amnesty. Stunning. I'm absolutely stunned by that admission and revelation. I'm quoting Kobach now. What happens is a lot of gangbangers get arrested, but the state won't have the resources to prosecute them all, so they are released. And that happens in a lot of states. They just simply they can't print their own money like the U.S. government, all right? So they have to live within their means, well, relatively live within their means, Illinois, New York, California, all the other liberal states notwithstanding. But in places like California, particularly cities like San Francisco and Berkeley and those places, it's not that they don't have the resources, which they don't, to prosecute these people. They just refuse to prosecute them. And then they refuse to tell ICE that they're releasing them, so they just release them, and away they go. And they join MS-13 or some other gangbanger outfit, or they've been in MS-13 and they've snuck across the border as dreamers, and this is what happens. So anyway, it used to be, he continues, Kobach does, it used to be before DACA that county sheriffs would release them to ICE, the illegal alien criminals, criminalians, release them to ICE in hopes that they would deport them. But we have many cases of such individuals who are getting the DACA amnesty, and they're just being released from prison or holding or whatever, not being prosecuted, and then getting DACA amnesty. What a deal. So Kobach is seeking to dispel the notion held by many DACA supporters that those in the DACA program automatically represent the higher class of person. Rather, he said, there are people of both ends of the spectrum. Quoting him again, we shouldn't have any illusion here. DACA is a cross-section of the illegal alien population. There are criminals and there are scholars, but it's not especially high-achieving cross-section of population. And that's the point. Most of these people that sneak across the border aren't highly skilled. They're not scientists and physicians and, well, maybe they're attorneys. I don't know, they're probably immigration attorneys. But you take, say, American citizens. You take 1,000 American citizens off different streets of America and put them all in one room, and you're going to have a cross-section of scholars, You're going to have a cross-section of people with good common sense. You're going to have dimwits. You're going to have dirtbags. You're going to have criminals. You're going to have probably drug dealers, whatever. That's the cross-section of America. Why wouldn't the cross-section of illegal aliens be at least as bad as that, and worse, more than likely? If they were highly skilled, they wouldn't be trucking across the Rio Grande. I can almost guarantee you that. All right, so we continue. Of course, the only ones we ever see are the ones smiling. And again, oh, this is whatever. But that's the problem with the DACA program. The only DACA or dreamers that we ever see are the ones graduating from high school with the cap and gown, and they're all smiles and they're wonderful and whatnot. And that's just not the way it is for the majority of these dreamers, unfortunately. That's just the way it goes. And frankly, I don't care if they are smiling and graduating from high school. If you came here illegally, you don't deserve to be here, period. MSNBC hosts Ali Velshi and Stephanie Rule took issue with Kobach's characterization of people not convicted in a court of law as criminals. Of course they would, because that's their agenda. We have no agenda. I guess we do. Our agenda is law and order. If you break the law, if you come in illegally, you've broken immigration law, you need to be deported. You don't need to be jailed here. We don't need to waste our money prosecuting you or processing you or anything else. If we catch you coming across the border, if we see that you're illegal, we put you on a bus that's waiting there, and away you go. There's no processing. I don't even care what your dadgum name is, frankly. Just get the crap out of our country. And if we had the wall and border fences that actually worked, like Israel and a lot of other places, or immigration like Poland has, we wouldn't have this problem in the first place. We wouldn't have people coming back and forth, being deported 17 times and coming back and murdering people and whatever. It just wouldn't happen. So anyway, Kobach is clearly understanding of the principle that a person is innocent until proven guilty. True. But his point is that there are illegal aliens who are not going through the entire legal process because law enforcement agencies are forced to make a resource-based decision, and they have to. That's just the bottom line. I mean, everything costs money, and if you don't have the money, you just can't do what you want to do. Whether you want to or not is immaterial. It doesn't make any difference. Resource-based decision on who to prosecute and who to release. Basically, he's saying that just because a person didn't get convicted doesn't mean they didn't commit a crime. And of course where's that dead horse when you need it so I can beat it again? They came across the border illegally. I don't care if they were dragged here by their parents, they're still not here legally, and they need to go home. All right? And if you've been here for 15 years and you're a law-abiding, not citizen, but a law-abiding resident, so to speak, illegally, you can go home and maybe you get your preferential treatment. You certainly don't get put in front of the people who've been waiting for 10 years to get into the country legally and they want to follow the law, but maybe you get a little bit of preferential treatment over the dirtbags that are just coming across the border, or the MS-13 gang members of the drug cartels or whoever. So there is some nuisance to the, is that what it says? There's some nuance to the issue of DACA immigrants that is being acknowledged by some Republicans. Florida Governor Rick Scott, which we will discuss right after the break, for example, supports amnesty for dreamers, those who were brought to the U.S. as children, but he wants it to come from Congress, and that it makes sense because Congress makes immigration law. Congress is supposed to make all law, and the president, whether it be Obama or Trump or whomever, is just supposed to execute those laws faithfully to the best of his ability. That's the way it's supposed to work. Still, he insists he is strongly opposed to illegal immigration. Okay? But he does not want to punish children for what their parents did. Kobach is known for his tough immigration stances and made news for accidentally revealing parts of his strategic plan for the Department of Homeland Security during a photo op with then President-elect Trump. All right, so there you go. That's the DACA program. And we will take a real quick break, and we'll come back with the Governor Rick Scott portion of this thing. But let me just reiterate real quick that this thing is this DACA, the Dreamer program, is a complete and utter sham. It's illegal and it's unconstitutional, and we'll discuss that in this next segment. And there are no nuances. There's no gray area. This is black and white. You break the law, you pay the price. That's black and white. There is nothing in between there. And that's what people refuse to understand, because they look at the human aspect of this. And I grant you, it's easy to look at the human aspect. I'm empathetic to a point too, but somebody has to make the hard choices in this country. If you're a leader, you gotta lead. It doesn't make any difference whether you like it or not. If the law is the law, if you're the president, if you're the police, if you're the FBI or some other law enforcement agency, you have to follow the laws that are on the books. You don't have to like them, and if you don't like them, petition to have them changed. Go to Congress, have somebody propose a bill, and get it through Congress and change the law. That's the only way it can be done. Presidential orders, executive actions, which we'll cover here in a minute, that's all crap too. So we'll be right back after this quick break.
You're listening to me, the Common Constitutionalist.
Yeah, baby! Yeah.
All right, we are back. Now, second segment to this is Florida Governor Rick Scott. A lot of illegals in Florida, just like the rest of the border states, and they have a problem down there. And the only way to cure the problem is to take a hard line. You can't compromise, because the minute, it's just, I've tried to teach my children this, and pretty much everybody I ever come in contact with, that when this discussion comes up. You cannot compromise on your principles. You cannot compromise on the law, because the minute the first time you compromise, the second time it'll be easier, and the second time people expect you to do it. So you can't give an inch on something like this, or you're going to end up giving a mile in the long run, because people are going to be complacent. They're going to forget that it was your first and only, even if you said, well, this time I'm going to compromise, and that'll be it. That's for sure. I'm not going to do this again. A bull crap. Within a year, nobody's going to remember what you said. Everybody's going to remember that you compromised on an issue, and they're going to expect you to go just a little further next time and a little further next time, and this is where we end up. The Republicans compromised back in the 80s with Ted Kennedy and his stupid amnesty and immigration program. Unfortunately, Reagan fell for it. The rest of the Congress, well, it was Democratic Congress and Senate back then, so it really doesn't matter. But Reagan got hornswoggled into it, and here we are. All right, they didn't, as usual, back in the 80s, if you recall, Ted Kennedy wrote this immigration program that they got rid of the merit-based program and put the family program in for immediate family and hangers-on and whatever, and that's how we got the immigration problem. And they were going to beef up and close the border. That was the promise. If you do this for us, the Democrats said, then we'll do this for you, Republicans. But let's do this first, and then you'll get that later. Well, guess what? Later never came. Later never does come when you're working with Democrats and establishment Republicans. So here we go. Florida Governor Rick Scott said Friday he supported efforts by some in Congress to cement the DREAM Act, which makes it basically permanent, that provides amnesty, nice jet going over, love that provides amnesty for some illegal aliens. He made the announcement via a statement released on his official Twitter account. President Obama was wrong to address the Dreamers issue by executive order, he wrote. Where do I even begin with that? It wasn't an executive order, but I'll get to that too. He should have done it in conjunction with the Congress, which is true, which is how we make laws in our democracy. And oh, if we only had a democracy. But Rick Scott, we have a representative republic. It ain't a democracy, all right? But that's just tomato, tomato, maybe. I hope. He added, as in Governor Scott added, but this issue must be addressed. I do not favor punishing children for the actions of their parents. He continues, the kids must be allowed to... This is a Republican governor. These kids must be allowed to pursue the American dream, and Congress must act on this immediately, he concluded. I am so sick of this tired, hackneyed argument. I can't, you know, first about not punishing the children. I made some notes here, so I'm going to refer to my notes so I don't get mixed up and I don't go on some sort of lunatic tirade. Aren't these the same people that claim that the Republicans are heartless for breaking up families? Well, if the parents are illegal and they bring the Dreamers in, all right, we keep the Dreamers and send the parents back? That's breaking up the families, isn't it? Okay, maybe not. Maybe the parents give up their children, and the children as unaccompanied minors, which there have been thousands upon thousands of these things, of these kids, come across the border. All right, they're ferried across by drug mules and whatever, probably taken advantage of, a lot of them. So they show up without the parents. Isn't that breaking up the family? Well, that's not our fault either. So crunch you and your stupid breaking up the family bullcrap argument. If you don't want to break up the family, sorry parents, you gotta go. Guess what? You want to keep your family together? That's your decision to make. Take them with you. Problem solved. Boom. Done. And another thing. Today, these days, we are all, you see these things on ancestrycom, and looking up your ancestry and where you came from is really fabulous, and it's trendy right now to say that you're from somewhere else or whatnot, because evidently being an American just isn't good enough, and it certainly isn't trendy enough anymore. Well, I'm a freaking American. I don't care where I came from. I came from America. That's where I came from. That's where my parents came from. That's where their grandparents came from. I don't care if they got off the boat last year. If I'm an American citizen, I'm a freaking American, and nothing else. I don't care. I wouldn't, if they gave away ancestry.com for free, I wouldn't sign up, because I couldn't care less, because I know who I am. I'm a daggum American. So anyway, we're also enamored with this ancestry.com nonsense. Wouldn't sending them back to their place of their original heritage be the right thing to do to celebrate their ancestry? If everybody's so enamored with their ancestry and want to go back to their homeland and visit and whatnot, send the Dreamers back so they can live out their ancestry and their culture. Wouldn't that be fabulous? Yay. So anyway, punishing. What did Governor Scott said that you can't, I do not favor punishing children for the actions of the parents. Fine. If you want to feel that way, that's great. I don't favor punishing the children either. But it's not our fault that they're here either. And who's being punished by the children staying here? You know who's being punished? Us. The American taxpayer, once again, is being punished because Governor Scott and the rest of these dimwits want to underwrite the Dreamers. Somebody's got to pay for these kids to stay here. They're not staying at people's houses. Nobody's sponsoring them. As a matter of fact, I think that's a grand idea. All right? If you're all for the Dreamers, what you got to do is you got to step up, brother, Governor Scott. How many Dreamers have you taken into your home? That's what should be required. If a Dreamer wants to stay, they have to not find a sponsor, not find some anonymous sponsor. That anonymous sponsor has to be willing to take that kid into their home and pay full boat. Pay for their schooling, pay for their clothes, their food, everything. All right? Oh, and they also have to pay for some sort of immigration official to be able to come by to make sure that they're doing what they said they were doing, and not just say they were going to do it and then offload the kid to some boarding school or so, or whatever. I don't care where it is. So that's what you have to do, Governor Scott. You want to step up and lead? Step up and lead. Sponsor one of these kids, not just sponsor, but physically take several, and I'm sure you can afford it, several into your own home, all right? Pay full boat so we don't have to pay dime one for these kids as taxpayers. Pay for their schooling, pay for their college, pay for their room, their board, their meals, their clothing, their everything. And then, fine, maybe we can talk about your dreamers. But until that time, we are the ones being punished. You say you don't want to punish the children, but you don't mind punishing the American taxpayer. That's freaking wrong in my book, brother. Because you're putting illegal immigrants you're putting them ahead of and above American citizens. And what the heck kind of American does that make you? I don't know. So even with my notes, I went off on a tirade. Okay, continuing on. The blaze continues. Former President Obama instituted the DREAM Act by executive action in a memo that ordered immigration officials to defer the deportation of illegal aliens who fulfilled their requirements of being classified as dreamer. The formal name of the, well, we all know the formal name of it. So this is an interesting point that they make without, I don't know if they even think that they're making a point other than just saying, reciting the fact that it was an executive action. Well, an executive action and an executive order aren't the same thing. They don't carry the same weight. As a matter of fact, executive orders don't even carry, people don't even know what an executive order is anymore, all right? An executive order only can only be written in for the executive branch, for employees of the executive branch. If you want, is like a boss telling his employees what he wants to do. It's not for the rest of the country, it's not for the legislature, it's not for the judicial branch, it's only for the executive branch, and that's it. That's the only thing the executive order can apply to. And it doesn't carry the full weight of law, like everyone says it does. Read the Constitution. I'm no constitutional authority or constitutional attorney or expert, but I can freaking read, and I've read the Constitution, and executive orders do not carry the weight that we think they do. They don't carry the full weight and authority of the law. That's bullcrap. Also, an executive action, this is why he did it in a memo, because he knew he couldn't do this as an executive order. So he just wrote a memo. So if that's the case, the memo is illegal and unconstitutional. If Trump or anyone else had the stones to do this, they could take the memo that Obama wrote, the original memo that he signed, stand up in the Oval Office in front of the entire nation and the world, in front of the camera, and say, this is the DACA memo. It's illegal and it's unconstitutional. It's not even an executive order because Obama knew that he couldn't even get away with this with an executive order. So he just wrote a memo and called it an executive action. And you take that thing and you tear it up in pieces and you toss it over to the side and you say, okay, the executive memo no longer exists. The DACA program no longer exists. Period. Done. Drop the mic. Walk away. That's it, because it's illegal. It's that simple. That's a point that I think, an instructional point that everybody's missing about this executive action in memo form. That it's illegal. It's just, but we've allowed it to stand because the people in Congress and the authorities are all a bunch of panty wastes, and they don't want to be blamed for being mean people for these poor dreamers, of which probably half of them are I don't say worthless, humans, but a lot of them are just not good people. And they've been proven not to be good people. But like I said, the poster children of these girls with their caps and their gowns, and they're throwing their gowns in the air and they're smiling, yay. That's a fraction of the Dreamers. Sorry, it's just a fact, guys. Anywho, okay. What was I doing here? Oh yeah, certain Republican members of Congress have come out against rescinding DACA. Of course they have, because they're all a bunch of pansies, including Senator Lindsey Graham. Yeah, of course, what a shocker. Who has been very vocal in advocating that Congress secure the amnesty protection, amnesty to protect it from Trump. Okay, we have to protect amnesty from Trump. Well, if that's the case, I'm a Trumpster in this particular, and I've always been a Trumpster as far as immigration is concerned. There are about 800,000 persons who have received DACA status already. So it's going to take a little while to get rid of them. Sorry. And I'm sorry. I agree with him. I agree 100% with campaign Trump. We don't wish to be mean, but they all got to go. That's what he said, almost verbatim quote. That's just the way it is, and it's the way it has to be. Because again, you compromise on this amnesty, Lindsey Graham and Rick Scott and all the other panty wastes in Congress and governorships, the establishment Republicans, they think that if they do this, more people are going to love them, that they won't be angry at them and call them racists and homophobes and whatever. Okay. Scott's statement went on to express his support for strict immigration enforcement apart from DACA. It does now, but this is what compromise yields, okay? He's going to be expected, if he continues in politics, eventually he's going to have to compromise and give a little bit more. And he's going to have to compromise and give a little bit more, because that's going to be what is expected of him. If he thinks that the Democrats or any of the people in the press are going to cease to call him a racist or a bigot or whatever, he's got another thing coming. He's got an R after his name, and that's all that matters. That's all that matters. It doesn't make a hill of beans worth of difference. So what's the point in compromising if you're just going to get a bad rap anyway? And he'll find out. He's going to find out eventually, if he's not primaried and driven off the ranch, hopefully. Whew. He says, I want to be very clear, I oppose illegal immigration. No, you don't. And everything else that is illegal, and no, you don't. That's an effing lie. And it's already been proven by your own statements that you don't oppose everything else illegal and illegal immigration. Dreamers are illegals. It's so convoluted. It's like some bizarro world that we live in, or something like that, where people can just throw this stuff out and they don't get questioned about it. It's just insane. Whew. Yeah. Mr. Scott continues. We must secure our borders, and the federal government is irresponsible in doing so. What a joke. Every single bit of immigration policy becomes simpler once we secure our borders and put an end to illegal immigration. Except for the Dreamers, who are you going to stop them from coming in? Guess who's going to be called a racist and a bigot and a Latino hater? You, Rick Scott. That's who. The minute you say this, they're just going to go back and revert to their old position. It's not going to make a hill of beans with the difference. I don't know who you're trying to cater to or not make angry with you. You know who's angry with you? American citizens are angry with you for not upholding the law and agreeing with this crap. It just, I don't know. I don't know if this immigration thing's ever going to be solved. It certainly has to, one way or the other, because we're losing our country. Every year that goes by that we don't do something about building a wall, and I mean, I'm with Trump, boy, build a 50-foot, I don't care. Build a wall like Israel has. Israel doesn't have nearly the problems where they've got the double walls and fences and moats with alligators. Well, they don't have that, but they should. And they don't have nearly the problems in places where they've got those walls. And they just, border security is just, we can hire thousands and thousands of more patrol agents, and it's not going to make a hill of beans worth of difference until we change it from the top. Trump's got to lead, and he's got to just basically say to knock this crap off. And hopefully on Tuesday he'll start down that road. heaven help us if he compromises on this. So that's all I've got for today. That should be all I got for today. I'm about to have another freaking aneurysm here. But this has been a blast as usual, and thanks you for watching, and we'll talk to you next week. Y'all have a great Labor Day, a blessed Labor Day. I think my son and I are going to take a nice long Labor Day hike because the weather's supposed to be conducive for that. And we'll talk to you next week. I'm out. See ya.